You think your 90s childhood was just mixtapes, dial-up internet, and playing outside until the streetlights came on? You're wrong. It wasn't an innocent childhood. It was a brutal psychological boot camp. And nobody told you that you were the lab rat. The 1990s didn't just create a generation. It forged a group of people with a fundamentally different neurological wiring. If you were born or raised in this era, you possess a hidden psychological advantage, a dark psychological boost that the generations before you lacked, and the generations after you will never understand. Welcome to the dark side of the 90s kid's mind, where systemic neglect, unfiltered media manipulation, and a massive technological collision turned you into the ultimate modern survivalist. Let's start with the very first thing that shaped your psyche: intentional neglect. Psychologists refer to your generation as the Latchkey Kids. In the 90s, corporate hustle culture in America reached its absolute peak. Both parents were entering the workforce, working longer hours to chase the American dream. The result? You were left entirely alone. Remember that feeling? Walking home from school, turning the key in the deadbolt, and stepping into an empty, eerily quiet house. There were no nanny cams monitoring you. There were no smartphones or GPS trackers to text your mom when things went wrong. You were completely, fundamentally isolated. From a dark psychology perspective, being stripped of adult supervision at such a vulnerable age triggered a primal survival mechanism deep inside your brain: hypervigilance. Because no one was coming to solve your problems, your brain was forced to rewire itself. You learned to decode the exact sound of footsteps in the hallway or the slam of a car door to predict exactly who was coming home and in what kind of mood. You cooked your own microwaved dinners. You bandaged your own bleeding knees. You managed your own time. That childhood isolation forged something inside you called cold independence. Today, when a crisis hits at work or a relationship suddenly implodes, younger generations might panic. They look around for a savior, an authority figure, or a therapist to guide them. But for you, a cold switch flips deep inside your mind. You don't wait for a rescue party. You rescue yourself. Your fierce independence wasn't born from love or gentle parenting. It was born from the raw survival instinct cultivated in those quiet, empty afternoons. But that is just the beginning. Let's talk about how your developing mind was hijacked by the media. The 90s was the golden age of unfiltered psychological manipulation aimed directly at children. Think about the cartoons you watched on Saturday mornings or after school. They weren't wholesome. They were packed with grotesque imagery, twisted plots, dark satire, and borderline psychological horror. 90s media frequently depicted adults as incompetent buffoons, society as a broken joke, and betrayal as a normal part of life. Meanwhile, toy commercials and corporate advertising used aggressive, unregulated psychological tactics, weaponizing greed, envy, and intense peer pressure, just to make you beg your parents for a piece of plastic. You weren't just a viewer. You were a target demographic being ruthlessly mined for profit. What did this do to your young brain? It built a titanium armor of cynicism. Being exposed to raw, manipulative, and deceptive messaging at such a young age gave you a highly calibrated lie detector. You were the first generation to consciously realize that the television was actively trying to trick you. In the modern world, this gives you a massive, unfair advantage. When other people are easily brainwashed by social media algorithms, fake news, political propaganda, or flashy online gurus selling fake dreams, you just smirk. You were manipulated by the most ruthless corporate ad executives in the world when you were 8 years old. Today's cheap psychological tricks can't even scratch your surface. You see through the illusion of the modern world because you were raised by it. Now, let's dive into the ultimate weapon the 90s handed you, a hybrid brain structure. You are the only generation in human history to begin your life in the analog world and mature in the digital one. This is a one-time, unrepeatable evolutionary advantage. Look at how your brain processes dopamine, the reward hormone. Kids today are born with an iPad in their hands. Their neural pathways are hijacked from birth by infinite scrolls, 15-second videos, and instant gratification. Their dopamine baseline is fragile, easily shattered by a moment of boredom. But you are different. You know the agonizing weight of friction. You know what it's like to sit by a boombox for 2 hours with your finger hovering over the record button, just to catch your favorite song on the radio. You know the patience of watching a single image load, pixel by painful pixel, over a screeching 56K dial-up modem. You know the risk of riding your bike miles across town to a friend's house, knowing there was a very real chance they wouldn't even be home. In psychology, this capacity is called delayed gratification, and it is one of the strongest predictors of human success. Your dopamine receptors were trained to endure boredom, waiting, and slow, inefficient processes. Because of this, while the modern world drowns in the psychological exhaustion of screen addiction and 10-second attention spans, your brain can simply step back. You possess the superpower the modern world desperately craves, the ability to disconnect. When the digital matrix becomes too toxic, too loud, or too overwhelming, you can easily throw your phone in a drawer and walk outside. You can do this because your brain actually remembers what the real world feels like. You aren't trapped in the digital cage because you hold the key to the exit. But we are. In the realm of dark psychology, no gift is ever free. What was the exact cost of this psychological boost? The price you paid is perpetual, high-functioning anxiety. You are the generation raised on the prophecy of collapse. Think about your timeline. You first became aware of the global stage just as Y2K threatened to wipe out the world's computer grids and send us back to the dark ages. As you entered your most formative teenage years, you watched the tragedy of 9/11 unfold on live television, watching the towers fall and feeling the illusion of American safety shatter forever. Then, just as you graduated and entered the workforce, the 2008 global financial crisis wiped out the economy, erasing your financial future before it even began. Your psyche is fundamentally programmed to wait for the next disaster. Even when your life is peaceful, even when your bank account is full and your relationships are stable, a dark, quiet corner of your mind is always whispering, something bad is about to happen. This is a state of chronic hyper-arousal. You are phenomenal at putting out fires. You handle chaos, trauma, and crisis better than anyone else in the room. But you are terrible at simply enjoying the peace. You always have a plan B, a plan C, and an exit strategy. because your childhood taught you that the entire system can and will collapse overnight. The brutal truth is this: you aren't strong because you wanted to be. You are strong because the world gave you no other choice but to become bulletproof. So, if you are a 90s kid listening to this, it is time to understand your true core value. You are not just some nostalgic adult looking backward at a simpler time. You are a psychological warrior who survived the bloodiest intersection of cultural and technological history. The unique combination of your cold independence, your cynical immunity to manipulation, your hybrid dopamine structure, and your trauma-induced hypervigilance has turned you into an unbreakable human being. The modern world is actively trying to put people to sleep with shallow comforts, algorithms, and virtual rewards. Everyone else is slowly losing their primal instincts, but not you. Deep down, beneath the socially acceptable disguise of a tired, functioning adult, you are still that kid with the house key around your neck, coldly observing the room, ready to survive, and knowing exactly what to do when everything falls apart. Don't apologize for your edge, and whatever you do, don't try to heal that coldness. In a world built on manipulation and fragility, your dark, psychological programming is your most ruthless competitive advantage.